knew something was off when Amanda started changing her passwords. After 8 years of marriage, we had always shared everything. Our beautiful home in suburban Boston, our successful careers, our dreams. But suddenly there were late-night phone calls, new friends I had never met, and a growing distance between us. Then I found it. A business card for a divorce attorney hidden in her purse. My stomach dropped. My life was about to change forever. Before I tell you how I discovered my wife's betrayal, drop a comment saying where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button if you've ever felt that gut feeling when something just is not right. Amanda and I met at a tech conference in San Francisco. I was presenting a panel on cybersecurity solutions, while she was representing her marketing firm. Our eyes locked across the crowded reception hall, and by the end of the night we were sharing drinks and laughing like old friends. The connection was instant and powerful. After a whirlwind long-distance romance, we got married 18 months later in a small ceremony with close friends and family. Everyone said we were perfect together. The ambitious IT consultant and the creative marketing executive, both driven and passionate about our careers. "You two are going to take over the world," my best friend toasted at our wedding. In many ways, we did create our own little empire. My consulting business took off, landing contracts with several Fortune 500 companies. Amanda climbed the corporate ladder at a luxury brand marketing firm. Within 4 years, we had saved enough for a down payment on our dream home in a prestigious Boston suburb. "This is just the beginning," Amanda had whispered, as we stood in our empty living room the day we got the keys. "We are going to build an amazing life here." We decided to delay having children to focus on our careers, a decision that seemed practical at the time. We traveled extensively, renovated our home, and enjoyed the freedom that came with our dual income, no kids lifestyle. On the surface, everything was perfect. The first change I noticed was so subtle, I almost missed it. Amanda started taking business trips more frequently, but sharing fewer details about them. Just the usual client meetings, she would say when I asked about her agenda. Then came the password change. One evening, I picked up her phone to order dinner while she was in the shower, only to find I could no longer access it. "Oh, work security protocols," she explained later. Everyone had to change their passwords and make them more complex. It sounded reasonable, but something in her tone felt off. For the first time in our marriage, I felt a flicker of doubt. Soon after, Amanda began talking about financial independence. Not in an obvious way at first, just casual comments dropped into conversation. My colleague Jessica just opened her own investment account, separate from her husband, she mentioned one evening. She says every woman should have her own money. Then came the questions about our assets. "The furniture we bought last year, that is considered mine too, right? Even though it was your bonus that paid for it," she asked while flipping through a magazine, her tone deliberately casual. "Everything we have is ours, Amanda." "We built this life together," I replied, wondering why she would even ask such a question. But the most concerning behavior was the phone calls. Amanda started taking calls in another room, her voice dropping to a whisper. If I walked in, she would quickly end the conversation or change the subject. "Just work stuff. You would be bored," she would say with a dismissive wave. The day everything changed was when I was looking for the car keys in her purse. She had driven my car the day before, and I needed to head to a client meeting. As I rummaged through her designer handbag, my fingers touched a stiff piece of card. I pulled it out, expecting a receipt or a business card from one of her clients. Instead, I found myself staring at the business card of Patricia Levinson, family law attorney specializing in high-asset divorces. My blood ran cold. I slipped the card back exactly where I found it and took my keys, my mind racing with questions and fears. In the following weeks, I became hyper-aware of every action Amanda took. I noticed she had been meeting with financial advisors. Her calendar had appointments marked simply as PL. Consultation, which I now suspected stood for Patricia Levinson. One evening, while Amanda was in the bathroom, I overheard a fragment of a phone conversation through the door. Yes, I understand her voice was low but clear. "I just want to make sure I am getting what is fair. He has no idea." Her sudden interest in our possessions took on a sinister meaning. She began casually photographing our home, claiming she wanted to start a home decor Instagram account. Now I wondered if she was cataloging our valuable items for divorce proceedings. Then came the money withdrawal. $5,000 disappeared from our joint account. When I asked about it, she had a ready explanation. I paid the contractor for the kitchen backsplash. Remember, we discussed it last month. We had discussed a kitchen renovation, but not a specific timeline or contractor. Still, it seemed plausible enough that I nodded and let it go. But I checked with local contractors later. None had been hired by Amanda. The stress was unbearable. I began having trouble sleeping, lying awake next to a woman I now suspected was planning to leave me and potentially take half or more of everything we had built together. The woman I had trusted completely, who knew all my vulnerabilities and secrets, was now a stranger with potentially hostile intentions. I felt completely alone. How could I tell friends or family about my suspicions without sounding paranoid? What if I was wrong? And this was all in my head. Then came the moment I could no longer deny what was happening. I came home early from a client meeting that had ended sooner than expected. As I walked into our home office, Amanda was at the computer. She quickly closed a browser tab when she saw me, but not before I glimpsed the words property division and Massachusetts divorce law on the screen. "You startled me," she said, her face flushed. "I did not hear you come in." That night, we had a tense dinner where Amanda steered the conversation toward our friends Tom and Sarah, who had recently divorced. Sarah got the house and half of Tom's retirement, Amanda commented. "That seems fair, right? I mean, she supported his career all those years. Tom was a surgeon who had cheated on Sarah with a nurse. Their situation was nothing like ours." The comparison made my stomach turn. The final confirmation came when I found emails to a realtor asking about our home's current market value. That same day, as I passed the guest room, I heard Amanda on the phone with her friend Jillian. "I am almost ready to make my move," she said quietly. "Just a few more things to get in order." I stood there frozen in the hallway as the full weight of the situation hit me. My wife of 8 years was preparing to blindside me with a divorce, potentially taking a large portion of what we had built together. In that moment, I made a decision. I would not be a victim. I would protect myself while there was still time. I knew I needed professional advice before making any moves. The next day, while Amanda was at work, I consulted with a divorce attorney, Marcus Sullivan, who specialized in protecting high-earning professionals. I was careful to use my personal email and phone, leaving no traces for Amanda to discover. "What you are describing is unfortunately common," Marcus told me after I explained my suspicions. "Spouses planning divorce often try to gain financial advantage by preparing while their partner remains in the dark." Marcus outlined several legal strategies for protecting my assets. The key, he emphasized, was documentation and timing. You need to catalog everything you own when it was purchased and with what funds, he advised. Particularly important are any assets you brought into the marriage or inherited, as those can often be protected as separate property. He also warned me about the importance of staying within legal boundaries. Do not hide assets or transfer them to friends or family. That can backfire terribly in court. There are legitimate ways to protect yourself that will hold up to scrutiny. I spent the next week creating a comprehensive inventory of our marital assets, our home vehicles, investment accounts, art collection, and retirement funds. I gathered documentation showing what I had brought into the marriage and what we had acquired together. During this process, I discovered something that shattered what little trust I had left. While searching for financial documents in our home office, I found a hidden folder in Amanda's desk drawer. Inside was a series of emails between her and a man named James, who I recognized as her colleague from work. The emails were intimate and detailed plans for their future together. They discussed starting fresh and how excited they were to finally be together properly. In one particularly painful message, James asked about their future living situation. "How soon after everything is finalized can you move in? I want to wake up with you every day in our place." Amanda's reply made me physically sick. "As soon as I get what I am entitled to from Walter. My lawyer says I should get at least 65% of our assets, since he is the higher earner. We will have plenty to start our new life together." They had been having an affair for at least 8 months, based on the email timestamps. 8 months of lies, deception, and betrayal while she slept next to me every night. Even worse, I found text messages discussing their financial strategy. Amanda had been feeding James information about my business, my assets, and my income, strategizing how to maximize what she could take in the divorce. "He has no idea about the consulting contract with Johnson Corp," one message read. "That is another $250,000 that I can go after." I also discovered Amanda had been siphoning small amounts of money from our joint accounts into a private account for months. Nothing large enough to trigger my attention, but over time it had accumulated to nearly $30,000. Armed with this knowledge, I began making strategic financial moves. I opened a separate bank account at a different bank and began transferring my personal income there, while still contributing my normal share to our joint accounts for household expenses. This was completely legal, as Marcus had advised me that I was entitled to protect my new earnings as long as I continued to support our marital lifestyle. I documented all marital assets, with dates of purchase and values, taking photos and gathering receipts. I paid particular attention to assets I had brought into the marriage, like my investment portfolio that predated our relationship and the classic car I had inherited from my grandfather. I carefully gathered evidence of my contributions to our shared wealth. While Amanda earned a good salary, my income had always been substantially higher and had funded the majority of our lifestyle and investments. Throughout this process, I maintained absolute secrecy. I used private browsing, kept all documentation in a secure cloud account. Amanda could not access and never confronted her about what I knew. The legal advantage of surprise was too important to sacrifice. The emotional toll was immense. Every night I came home and ate dinner across from a woman who was actively plotting to take everything from me. We still said "I love you" out of habit. She would still kiss me goodbye in the morning. The cognitive dissonance was almost unbearable. I reached out to my longtime friend Michael, who had gone through a similar situation 3 years earlier. His wife had blindsided him with divorce papers after 15 years of marriage, taking him for over half his net worth and leaving him financially devastated. "I wish I had seen the signs and protected myself like you are doing," Michael told me over a private lunch away from our usual spots. "You are doing the right thing, Walter. This is not about revenge. It is about fairness." I also consulted with a financial advisor who specialized in divorce protection. She helped me understand how to legally structure my assets for maximum protection while staying within ethical and legal boundaries. "The courts look unfavorably on last-minute transfers designed to hide assets," she explained. "But there are legitimate ways to ensure your premarital assets remain protected." Recognizing the emotional damage this situation was causing, I also started seeing a therapist, Dr. Harmon, being careful to schedule appointments during work hours and pay privately to leave no paper trail. "What you are experiencing is a profound betrayal trauma," Dr. Harmon explained. "The person you trusted most has violated that trust in multiple ways. Your feelings of anger, grief, and anxiety are completely normal." Through therapy, I began to process the pain and develop coping strategies for the difficult days ahead. I also joined an online support group for men facing divorce, where I could anonymously share my experiences and learn from others. During this time, I also carefully documented Amanda's spending habits and lifestyle. If she tried to claim inflated expenses in court, I would have evidence of our actual standard of living. The strangest part of this period was the calm that came with having a plan. While the pain of betrayal remained, the panic subsided. I was no longer powerless. Each day, as Amanda continued her deception, I was quietly building my protection. I was reclaiming control of my future. One document, one account, one preparation at a time. I knew the confrontation was coming. It was just a matter of time. And when it did, I would be ready. Exactly 2 weeks after I had completed moving my assets into protected positions, it happened. I came home from work to find Amanda sitting in our living room with an envelope on the coffee table. Her expression was a mixture of determination and what appeared to be rehearsed sympathy. "Walter, we need to talk," she said, her voice steady. "I have given this a lot of thought, and I want a divorce. I am not happy anymore, and I think we have grown apart." I remained silent as she delivered what was clearly a practice speech about how she had tried to make it work and how this was for the best. She spoke as if this decision had just been made, as if she had not been planning this for months. "My attorney has prepared these papers." She continued, pushing the envelope toward me. "I am hoping we can keep this amicable and fair." I picked up the envelope calmly and removed the documents. As I skimmed through them, I saw exactly what I had expected. Her lawyer had drafted a settlement proposal that would give Amanda 70% of our assets, including our home, most of our investment accounts, and a substantial portion of my retirement funds. It also demanded significant alimony based on my higher income. What I did not do was act surprised. I simply nodded and set the papers down. "You do not seem shocked," Amanda said, clearly thrown off by my composed reaction. "I am not," I replied simply. "I found your divorce lawyer's card in your purse weeks ago. I have known about your plans for some time now." The color drained from her face. "You went through my purse." "I was looking for my car keys," I explained. "But that is beside the point. I also know about James." At the mention of her lover's name, Amanda's composed facade cracked completely. Her eyes widened in shock, and then narrowed defensively. "You've been spying on me," she accused, immediately going on the offensive. "I simply paid attention when something felt wrong in our marriage," I countered calmly. "The same way I noticed the money you have been moving to your secret account." Amanda stood up abruptly. "This does not change anything. The divorce is happening. I know it is," I agreed, "but not on the terms in those papers. I have already retained my own attorney. He will be contacting yours tomorrow." The next day, Amanda's lawyer, the same Patricia Levinson from the business card, called my attorney, expecting to steamroll an unprepared, emotional husband. Instead, Marcus informed her that we were fully aware of the situation and had comprehensive documentation of Amanda's affair with James, her financial deceptions, and the true state of our marital assets. When I came home that evening, Amanda was waiting for me, furious. "Your lawyer called mine today," she spat. "He claims you have evidence of things that are not true." "We both know they are true, Amanda," I replied, maintaining my composure. "I have emails between you and James going back 8 months. I have documentation of the money you have been hiding. I have everything. You had no right to go through my private communications," she shouted. "Just like you had no right to discuss my personal finances with your boyfriend while planning how to take what I worked for," I countered. Her lawyer must have told her how this evidence would affect her case, because her strategy quickly shifted. The next day, she tried a new angle. "Walter has always controlled all our money," she told mutual friends, painting herself as financially abused. I had to hide money just to have some independence. This backfired when several friends knew the truth, that Amanda had always maintained her own accounts and had complete access to our finances. Her attempt to rewrite our financial history only served to damage her credibility further. As the legal process continued, Amanda's perfect plan continued to unravel. The evidence of her affair with James significantly weakened her position in our no-fault divorce state. The documentation of her hidden accounts undermined her claims for additional support. Her demands for an unequal distribution of assets were rejected by the court, given the evidence we presented. Her growing desperation became evident in her increasingly frantic attempts to salvage her position. She tried claiming partial ownership of my business, based on supporting my career despite having never participated in or contributed to my company. She demanded items of sentimental value to my family that she had never previously shown interest in. Each attempt was methodically countered with documentation and facts. 3 months into the divorce proceedings, Amanda requested a meeting without our lawyers present. We met at a neutral coffee shop away from the home we once shared. "This has gotten out of control," she said, looking tired and defeated. "The lawyers are eating up all the money that either of us would get." "I offered a fair settlement from the beginning," I reminded her. 50-50 split of all marital assets each, keeping our own premarital property. "You rejected it." "I did not think you would fight so hard." She admitted a rare moment of honesty. Patricia said most men just give in to get it over with. Most men do not discover their wives conspiring with their lovers about how much money they can take. I replied, the words still painful to say, even after months. Amanda looked down at her untouched coffee. "I never meant for things to go this way." "Which part? The affair, the financial deception, or just getting caught?" She flinched at the directness of my question. "All of it, I guess. James and I. It just happened. And then, one thing led to another." "Nothing just happens, Amanda. You made choices, every step of the way. Why could you not just be blindsided like you were supposed to be?" She asked a bizarre question that revealed just how entitled she had become. "Why could you not just ask for a divorce honestly?" I countered. "Why the schemes? The deception. We could have ended this marriage with dignity. Her answer stunned me in its callousness. Because I wanted to win, she said simply. I wanted to walk away with everything I felt I deserved after 8 years. The house, the lifestyle, the security. I did not want to start over with nothing, even though you were the one leaving for another man, I clarified. Yes, she admitted. I wanted both. A new life with James, and the financial security from my life with you. In that moment I realized the person sitting across from me was not the woman I had married. Perhaps she never had been. The woman I loved had been a projection, a careful construction, hiding someone capable of profound selfishness and betrayal. Well, I said, standing up and leaving money for the coffee. I guess neither of us got exactly what we wanted. After 6 grueling months, our divorce was finally settled. The terms were far from what Amanda had initially demanded. We agreed to a fair division of our truly marital assets. I kept my premarital property and business interests, which represented a significant portion of our net worth. Amanda received her fair share of what we had built together, but nothing more. The day we signed the final papers at the courthouse was surreal. 8 years of marriage dissolved with a few signatures. As we stood on the courthouse steps afterward, Amanda paused. I am sorry it ended this way, she said, not quite meeting my eyes. Me too, I replied honestly. There was no joy in this victory, only relief that it was over. We walked in opposite directions and I never looked back. The process of rebuilding my life began immediately. I sold our house, unable to live with the memories it contained, and moved to a modern apartment in a vibrant downtown neighborhood, completely different from our suburban setting. The change of scenery was exactly what I needed. I reconnected with friends I had neglected during my marriage and strengthened bonds with family members who had supported me through the divorce. My parents, who had always had reservations about Amanda that they kept to themselves, became regular visitors to my new place. You seem more like yourself again, my mom commented during one visit. More like the Walter we knew before. She was right. I had changed during my marriage, molding myself to fit the life Amanda and I were building. Now I was rediscovering who I was, on my own terms. I threw myself into growing my business, expanding into new markets, and bringing on 2 additional consultants. The work was challenging and fulfilling, giving me purpose during a time when my personal life felt empty. I established new routines, morning runs along the river, cooking classes on Thursday nights, and weekend hiking trips that Amanda had always refused to join me on. Slowly, I created a life that felt authentic and satisfying. The emotional healing took longer than the practical rebuilding. There were still nights when I woke up angry, replaying the betrayal in my mind. There were moments when a song or a glimpse of someone who looked like Amanda would send me spiraling into memories. But with time and continued therapy, those moments became less frequent and less intense. Dr. Harmon helped me work through the anger and grief, focusing on processing the emotions rather than suppressing them. Betrayal trauma does not just disappear, he explained, but you can integrate it into your life story without letting it define your future. One of the most unexpected outcomes of this painful chapter was discovering a strength I never knew I possessed. I had faced one of my greatest fears, the dissolution of my marriage and the betrayal of my trust, and I had survived. More than survived, I had protected myself and emerged with my dignity intact. I learned to trust my instincts again. That initial feeling that something was wrong in my marriage had been accurate, and recognizing it had saved me from an even more devastating outcome. I promised myself I would never again ignore that internal warning system. I also found a new appreciation for the simple aspects of life that remained unchanged by the divorce. My love of reading by the window on Sunday mornings, the satisfaction of solving a complex problem for a client, the peace of a solo hike in the mountains. These small joys became anchors in my new life. For almost a year, I avoided dating entirely, focusing instead on healing and rediscovering myself. When friends tried to set me up, I politely declined, knowing I needed to be whole again before involving someone else in my life. Then I met Sophia at a charity event for a local educational foundation. She was smart, genuine, and carried her own story of resilience, having rebuilt her life after losing her husband to cancer 3 years earlier. Our connection was not the whirlwind romance I had with Amanda, but something quieter and more substantial. We took things slowly, each of us cautious from our past experiences. We established clear boundaries and communicated openly about our expectations and fears. When I finally told her the full story of my marriage and divorce, she did not offer empty platitudes. "That kind of betrayal changes you," she acknowledged. "It has shaped who you are now, just as my loss shaped me." We carry these experiences with us. Her understanding and acceptance helped me release the last remnants of shame I had been carrying. The irrational feeling that I had somehow failed because my marriage ended this way. With Sophia, I discovered the joy of building a relationship based on complete transparency and mutual respect. We did not rush toward traditional relationship milestones, instead creating our own path that honored our individual journeys. The lessons I learned through my divorce have become guiding principles in how I approach all relationships now. I learned that protection and paranoia are not the same thing. There is a difference between being cautious and being controlled by fear. I still maintain financial independence and clear documentation of my assets, but I do not let those practices stem from distrust of others. I discovered that preparation is not pessimism. Being ready for difficult possibilities does not mean you are inviting them into your life. It simply means you respect yourself enough to be your own advocate. Most importantly, I learned that even the most painful experiences can lead to growth. The end of my marriage forced me to rebuild, but in that rebuilding, I created a life more aligned with my true self than the one I had before. Today, 3 years after finding that divorce lawyer's business card, my life bears little resemblance to the one I shared with Amanda. I live more authentically, love more openly, and protect my peace fiercely. The betrayal that once defined my days is now just one chapter in a much longer story. If you are facing your own moment of truth in a relationship, trust your instincts. Prepare for what might come, not out of fear, but out of self-respect. And remember that even in your darkest moments, you have the strength to rebuild something beautiful. Have you ever had to protect yourself from someone you loved? Share your experience in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories of resilience and recovery. Thank you for listening. And remember, sometimes the end of one chapter is exactly what you need to write a better story.